Hi, everyone. This is Rochelle Rizzi with Vrai, and I'm here today with Angie Redmon. She's the president of Strive HR. Angie is new to my circle, and I have had this great opportunity this morning to talk to her before recording. And I have to say, I'm excited to bring her to the table. I think she has a lot to offer, a great story to share, is really relatable to all entrepreneurs. And what we have in common, other than being working moms and entrepreneurs, we love culture. So I'm very excited to have her tell us a little bit more about her story. And I know that she's got some really exciting things ahead for her and her business. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
So Angie, thank you. I want to start right from the beginning, and the short time we have together is tell us more about you and your story and how you got to this point in your life.
I have a 25 plus year experience in HR that started in staffing, spent about 10 years in the staffing industry, and then went to a corporate role as the director of HR. And through that had the experience of working with an amazing culture. This was before there were best places to work awards, but it was embedded in me from a head and heart perspective, what's really important with people that you work with. Through that experience, we did have some challenges of mergers and acquisitions. And so that was, although a difficult thing to go through, it was a great learning experience for me, which even more embedded my focus on the importance of employee engagement and corporate culture and continuous improvement and all of those things that help make our workforces better. I most recently worked in an organization where I was the VP of HR and had an amazing team. Both of the most recent positions I held, I started out as a department of one and then built up phenomenal HR teams where we could focus on all things corporate culture and engagement for our employees. And both of them were great growth experience as well. So not only attracting, but retaining that top talent that you need with your company. I got the bug through some friends to consider going into the consulting world. And I found myself personally in a situation where we call it the sandwich generation. And now I've done a lot of research to find that there, as of last year, are 53 million of us that are in that sandwich generation where you're caring for your children at home, possibly caring for elderly, your parents. And so you're really divided between taking care of those of different generations while you're still maintaining a part or full-time job. And so I really wanted to take a step back and say, going forward, if I'm going to spend all of these hours away from my family, I really want to make sure that the work I do every day is really important to me. And so I took a step back and said, what out of this that I do every day do I love the most? And if I'm going to spend these hours away from the people that I love the most, let's make that work really impactful and meaningful. And so I knew I needed a lot more flexibility in my schedule. And I thought starting my own business as a consultant would enable me. And it definitely has done that. So I went out, started my own business focused on HR consulting. And I learned very quickly that the HR consulting sandbox is a very full sandbox. There's a lot of people doing that type of work. And I decided to invest in myself and hired a business coach and said to this individual, you know, I'm finding these opportunities that are coming my way. They're not why I left this corporate comfortable role. How do I really hone in on doing the kind of work that I want to do? So we talked about what I loved about corporate culture, keeping your employees engaged. And I shared with this coach that I had had many opportunities to help the organization that I had worked for earn awards that focused on culture, like best places to work and top workplaces, and then awards specific to our industry. And she said, well, why don't you help other companies do that? And I sat there and I said to her, I said, well, I don't know that that's a thing. I don't know that anybody does that. She said, all the more reason why you should be doing that. So I really just revamped my whole business and really focused in on helping organizations define their why and why they want to get better and why they would even want to be recognized for why their culture is so awesome. So that's really the basis around Strive HR. So much of my background focused on continuous improvement and getting better and making things better. So always striving to improve. And that's how I named the business that way. And that's really what I do. But this past year, talking with HR professionals, I found that a lot of HR professionals were spending so much of their time developing everybody else in their company and focusing on the needs and not really focusing on themselves. So I opened up another opportunity to work with clients on one-on-one mentoring for HR professionals to help them discover their impact and how they can make a larger and more poignant impact within their organization. So that's where I'm focusing my business now.
Well, that's fantastic. You mentioned something about the sandbox, and I thought that was interesting because in the marketing world, I find myself telling clients all the time, if they already have a contractor in place, for example, with some specific niche of marketing, I'll play in the sandbox. It's so interesting to me how many people feel resistance to that instead of just being curious about, well, who's in the sandbox? What toys do they have? How can we partner together? There's enough business out there for all of us. And we all have a niche. We just don't always realize it. So I'm glad that your coach was able to pull that out from you of like, what is your strength? Because people are going to be attracted to that, both as partners and clients. And that leads me to my next question, which is what problem, are they trying to solve? What are your clients coming to you with as their number one, help me, I'm stuck. When they call you, what's their main pain point? What's keeping them up at night?
Well, when it's an organization that's focused on the award-winning workplace, those that I have the most conversations are twofold. Either they have applied for an award and didn't receive it, and that stung, and so they really want to figure out why and how they can get it better. Or those that are saying, I think I want to do this, but I have absolutely no idea where to begin. And so those tend to be the clients that I talk to most frequently because they don't have a dedicated resource to kind of guide them through that process. So it's a little daunting and scaring to think, I have this full-time job that I'm responsible for at this organization. How am I going to handle that as well? So I can come in both of those ways and help them.
So what is their underlying why? Like getting that award, obviously, anytime we win anything or have any accolade at all, we can use that in a million different ways for marketing, for attracting people, for retaining them. But what do you think is their main reason?
And everyone's different, but that's our very first conversation, is to try and figure out why they want the award. If they want, you think back to where our kids would be in youth sports and everybody gets a trophy. And this is vastly different. Not everybody gets a trophy. But if an organization or a leader within an organization, and I have had these conversations, they just want the trophy. I'm not the best partner for them because to me, that's not the intrinsic award for that. The award is when you go through that process of figuring out what you can focus on to get your organization better, to make your employees happier, because we know if our employees are happier, our customers are going to be happier. So that whole journey and that process, to me, that's the true award. And if you get recognized by whichever organization is putting on that award, and you can put that trophy on your shelf then at that point or on your website, that's an added bonus. That's kind of like the icing on the cake. But the whole journey is really the process. But yes, our first conversation really focuses on their why. And there's so many different reasons why. If they are focusing on attracting and retaining top talent, then an award like a best places to work or a top workplaces, a lot of those will focus on a more geographic area, which, although with what's going on with the pandemic, they're letting employees work a lot more different places, but that's really focusing more on the employee aspect of that. But then there's another piece of that where they have industry specific awards. Best IT organizations to work for, best nonprofits to work for. So when we talk about why are you wanting this award, then that helps us go down and figure out which path of which award it is that we should be looking for.
Yeah, that's great that you tell people no, that's not what I'm doing. Because that, first of all, that would be an energy suck for you, I would imagine. And it's hard to stroke the ego as consultants, you cannot stroke your client's ego. That is not our job. Our job is to provide tools for them to grow, whether it's HR or for me for marketing. But you can't control the outcome of how they're going to utilize this. So such an important conversation to ask them, why is this important? I too, again, as a marketer and a writer, helped someone get on the top 50 companies to watch in Michigan. I knew that was a good fit for me and a good energy boost, frankly. And they won. And it was because the entire team was involved. They already had a great culture. They just didn't know how to articulate it on paper. And from that process, they had another consultant that they worked with that led them through all the fun like intake from the employees of what's important to them. And I see them post a job and it is filled. They have a very good process, but they fill it with top talent and they attract, people are waiting for things to open up for them because of that award. So I think that's such a great thing that you do for them. When they go through the process before they even find out that they win, what's some of the feedback you hear of how is that owner feeling, or how is the team feeling?
Well, it's different if they've been through it before. So if they've been through it before, and then maybe if they didn't win, they're feeling a little bruised.
Mm-hmm.
But what is a great opportunity is if they've been through it before, won, and for whatever reason didn't get it following that next year after, they know the benefits that came from it before. So then they're even more invested in focusing on that. So our process, when I work with a client, it can be 9, 12, 18 months. It's not a come in for a week and then gone, because I'll work with them, and if they have been through this before, we'll pull out the data from their previous surveys. In addition to, I will have very organic conversations with people. So if they've got that base point to take a look at, then we go through and take a look at where are you at now and what goals do you want to set based on how things are at this point. Mm-hmm. So that then we can apply that later on as we go through the application process. And then when they find out if they get the award. Mm-hmm. And before we get to that phase, I do have conversations to say, we don't know if you're going to get the award or not. Whatever that outcome is, take time to pause in that moment. Meaning, if you get the award, by all means, take time to celebrate, because your employees took the time to answer those questions you asked. If you don't get the award, take time to recognize. And so if you're taking that time to say, we did not get the award, but we are going to dig deep into those findings and that data you gave us, and we're going to work with you as our employees to set action plans going forward based on the feedback that you gave us. So that's a really critical point, to sit in that moment and marinate there for a period of time before you start acting on it. The employees need to know that you hear them, or else they're not going to answer those types of surveys for you going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important. What do you think are some of their biggest roadblocks whether they're going through the process or trying to, if they're repeatedly not getting it? Is it a personality thing with them, that they're not able to articulate the culture that is in their head that they think is so easy to do to their employees? Or what would you say are some of the biggest roadblocks?
Well, alignment is, when I talk with companies, when I go through this, a big piece of what I call, it's what I call the ACE strategy. So whether we're working on this process, whether we're working on steps down the road, the ACE strategy that I put in place is alignment, communication, and empowerment. And so as we're talking about each of those steps, that alignment piece is really critical based on what you're talking about. So through that, we will often discover that maybe employees don't understand how they make an impact on the organization. Does everybody in the company know how the company makes money? Does everybody know in the company what they do to impact the goals and the steps of progression within the organization? So often that's where those leaders will take a step back and say, oh, This is where we've had a disconnect. We haven't made that communication piece, which is the next one. And so when those barriers come down and you start getting the right people in place to have those conversations, the communication is not always going top down, it's going bottom up as well. That's how we start making progress at that point. And then that last piece, empowerment, when you start empowering your employees to do their job, hire the right people and get out of their way and let them flourish, it's that all starts to come full circle. And those goals that you're setting, when you get those three pieces in place, that's when they start to happen.
It seems like the common thread there is trust,
Sure.
both the two-way trust, and if the leader has not hired the right people, you're going to lose trust right away as the owner. But you have to trust yourself, whether you need a consultant or whatever it takes to get the right people. Because as owners, we sometimes forget we're not strong in all areas. And maybe we're not great at hiring. I'll raise my hand to that one. I actually don't think that, I think I can attract really great people, but my process in hiring, which is why I don't have employees right now. I have a group of contractors. And it's not that I don't trust them, but I don't want to manage employees right now. Because if anybody's been watching the show, I'm a single mom of 4 kids and I need the flexibility. But hiring employees gives a great responsibility to the leader. You have to lead them. They are looking, you have no followers if you're not leading positively. And they'll be kind of paying half attention because they're always looking for the next great opportunity. You want those brand advocates who understand the business, who are at a cocktail party saying like, I love working for this person. I love working for this company. We're making a difference in the community. And that is the best place to work when you know that you can trust when they leave the door. It's not just FaceTime, like I'm here at the business and I'm showing up for, my 8-hour shift and then I can't wait to clock out. So yeah, I've been through all of that. I've been through the ringer with employees and business partners. And sometimes trust can be, a strength and a weakness too, which is one of the things I've run into is I'm a very trusting person. And I don't want to encourage people to go in as skeptics, but if you have a better process of hiring, you'll get the right people rather than just saying, wow, that person was super likable and, the portfolio was great and I'm feeling a lot of good energy. And then you find out 2 weeks later after hiring them that their personality does not match any of the team. They are a diva, and they're the only person that knows the right way to do things. So I've been there. And I think people like you are such a blessing to people like me who super optimistic, hardworking, successful for whatever that means. But that's a weakness that I have. And I need a consultant like you to come in and help lead that effort for sure.
Well, and then when leaders can say, this is the area that I'm strong in, this is the area that I'm not, what a great growth. And to be able to say, I need to hire people to fill that bucket that is an area in which I'm not as strong. And that only makes the team better, makes the organization better, because you're filling those areas in which different people have different strengths.
Yeah, and I think that it gives the leader more credibility too. And to be honest, it gives you a little bit of an out. Like take that piece of your day-to-day off your plate, give it to someone who knows what they're doing. And again, from a process perspective and a decision-making process, both from hiring and offboarding, I try not to say firing, offboarding someone to bless their journey after they leave, there should be a set process and a respectful one. So that you can have this go-to decision-making tool and or consultant to walk you through. Have a buddy. It's lonely. We talked about this before we started recording. You're on an island, and if you're a solo entrepreneur or a sole proprietor with a small team, or you're even medium size, and you're the top dog, then please I encourage you all to get partners who know what they're doing, because your job has now grown and you can't have a life if you don't delegate and take some things off your plate. So what's in it for the leader if not to delegate, build the team, build the company without them in it? If you take the leader out, what's left? If you're doing everything, you have no value. Your company has no value. And I've said this before, but you are not your business. And if you want to build value, whether you're going to leave your business, whether you sell it, you pass away, you decide to retire, whatever it is, everything has a season. So you want to be constantly growing that value. And I think a lot of that comes from the people, especially if you're a service industry business. It's people. You don't have the widgets. And I can tell you, I tried to sell my marketing agency, worth nothing. It was nothing. I had to walk away and start completely over because the intrinsic value wasn't there. I didn't have the processes, the contracts, the whatever. I mean, call me later and I'll tell you all about it. But I'm just glad for you that you're attracting people who value that, who value their people. Hopefully they can see there's a life beyond their business and that it's actually two parallel tracks, right?
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So what would you say are some of the biggest challenges people are seeing right now with, we're coming out of COVID, we are reacclimating to life. Are there any nuances that you're seeing with that?
Well, definitely one, which caused me to add an additional service in which I offer to clients. So I feel like I have a really strong network of HR professionals. And since my background has been in that for so long, I love, even though I'm in the consulting seat, still talking to those that are quote unquote out in the field and hearing what challenges that they're facing right now. It only makes me better to know about those types of things. And so many of those, since this pandemic has happened, have all been telling me that they're struggling with all the different responsibilities that they have. So they've spent so much time on preparing their employees to return or to help their employees to be better working from home. So all the different things that have focused on the development of their employees, these HR folks have really made that front and foremost of what they were doing, which is amazing. But they haven't focused on themselves. And so I really started to see this like towards the end of Q4 last year. And all of these HR folks are going through benefit renewals. I mean, some of the things that they would have carved out time in Q3 to be prepped for, they were just drowning in their mountain of responsibilities. And so I started having more conversations very informally at that time. And I would find myself kind of mentoring and coaching these HR professionals and found that there is definitely a need for that for sure. So this year I launched a program to help HR professionals discover their impact. Meaning a great example of this, a person I was having a conversation with, she was outlining all these responsibilities that she had, and she was struggling and getting very choked up while we were talking on the phone because she wanted to do such a good job, but she felt like she was spinning her wheels. So I said, well, tell me, like, what are the top 3 things that the president of your company has said that these are the goals for the company? Let's start there. And she paused and didn't say a word. And she said, I have no idea what our goals are. So she was fairly new to the profession, definitely new to the organization. And I explained to her that if you want to make an impact, you need to connect what you do every day to what the goals are of the company. Do you know how your company makes money? Do you know how the company determines its profit? In the HR seat, you need to know these things so that you can show value and impact. So through that and several other conversations, I found that there's the need that these HR folks are saying, I'm ready to start focusing on me. And I want to get me better so that I can be better for my company. So through these conversations that I'm having, I'm teaching HR folks how to discover their impact, how to make those connections with their leaders so that they can say, this is how I'm helping make this company better. This is how I'm helping these people on the team and connecting all of those dots. So in addition to the award-winning workplace, this HR mentor program that I've rolled out this year, I think it was timely. I think it was needed. And I hope that more HR professionals, whether it's with me or with someone else, will raise their hand and say, I'm ready to focus on me and help getting myself better so I can be better for my company.
I think that's a really great asset for any leader to have leaders within, because again, you cannot carry the burden all yourself, and you have to really keep asking yourself, why am I doing all of this? There could be new positions that people haven't even thought of having within their team to offload some of that work, and responsibility. I can imagine if I were having to manage, all of my contractors are remote, but they're all what I would call A players. They're self-driven. I've managed teams long enough to know how to keep people motivated and engaged. And I trust them, right? Again, it's that trust piece. If you could take some of that trust and delegate that role to someone under you, well, I shouldn't say but there is a hierarchy, right? You have someone who reports to you who can take that leadership. Number one, you've now empowered somebody else in your team to help you lead, who walks beside you, who supports you, who also trusts that you've got their back, which empowers them to go and say to the other team members, I've got your back. How can I help advocate? That helps give a safe space for, hey, I have a problem. The boss said this, and I don't understand it. Help me understand. And you've got somebody that, whether you're developing a kind of a VP or whatever it is, you need somebody that you can, that next level of leadership. You need a leadership team. So I'm very excited for what you're doing. And I think that it's such a great benefit for entrepreneurs. And I hope that while they may think, I want to be a best place to work, what comes from that is being a better leader. I really think that's one of the best outcomes. And hopefully it's a personal journey for those leaders to realize, kind of a soul searching thing of, this business means something. This is the livelihood, not only for me as the leader, but for my team. And it has to mean something to them too.
Right.
So I love the questions you ask them.
Thank you. Well, and to follow up on that too, it's so vulnerable for a leader to be able to, we sit there and we go over the findings, and there's a lot of questions asking about the leadership of the company. And all of these different surveys as well give an opportunity for open-ended comments. So for that leader to take a step back and see not only how are they ranked, but to read word for word what those open-ended comments are, and to be able to say, I recognize this is an area in which I recognize an area in which our team needs to make improvement on, to recognize it and then be willing to act on it. So that's huge. And I love being able to work with those leaders and help guide them through that process.
Yeah, well, I can see that. And I'm really grateful to get to know you, and I can't wait to keep following your journey. I know that you have a free resource on your website. Can you tell us more about that and where to find it?
Yes. So I created a document called the 6 Mindsets of High Performing HR Leaders. And that was really driven from my reflection of how I've connected with the C-suite in my work history. So just some general tips that I've given on this document. It's on my website, and anybody can go to strivehr.net and have access to that document. And as well, if anybody that happens to be viewing this, if they think, I might have an interest in going on this best workplaces journey, I'm not sure if I'm ready. Or if there's an HR professional that says, I think I might want to work with a mentor, I'm not sure if I'm ready. Anyone falling into either of those, I'd be happy to give a 30-minute consult just to talk to them to see if they're interested and if this is something that they'd like to do. If they just want to mention that they heard about it through this, I'll be more than happy to offer that consult.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for that. I hope that more people will take advantage of your expertise and your passion for culture and your love of people, and trying to make sure that everybody gets what they want and need from this world. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me. I've loved talking with you.